Greetings Mavericks and new viewers. Tonight, direct and live, from the Maverick News Network, World Studios. This is Maverick News with Rick Walker.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Maverick News Channel. The world is laughing at Donald Trump tonight. He has embarrassed himself. He's also feuding with many of his closest friends, supporters, world leaders who have been in the MAGA camp. It's all fracturing. It's amazing to watch this self-destruction in real time. How far will it go, or will there be some effort to repair the damage? Time will tell, but tonight we will show you the fun that is being poked at Donald Trump, the memes, the jokes, the way that President Trump has made a laughingstock of himself with his social media posts, which at this point, it seems finally are beginning to come back to bite him on the butt. Even he, now it seems, has gone too far. The attack on the Pope seems to be the thing that has pushed it all over the edge of acceptability into unacceptability. So we'll show you what's going on there also tonight. I know, a lot of you don't know what to make of this, but Mark Carney, after securing a majority government last night, winning all three, Liberals winning all three of those by-elections last night in Canada, 2 in Ontario, 1 in Quebec, he is axing the tax, another tax. He already axed the carbon tax on fuel. Now he's axing the excise tax. We'll tell you what that means and show you the reaction to all of that. It's so confusing. He's a liberal. Liberals are tax and spend. I told you, he's not Justin Trudeau. He's not Justin Trudeau. And the Conservatives don't know what to do, honestly. They really don't. Andrew Scheer in the House of Commons today, trying to find a way to kind of get in there and find some way to attack Carney on axing the tax. And I'll show you what his approach was today in question period. It's hard to this is a difficult one for the Conservatives to deal with, and we'll have to see where Pierre Poilievre winds up on that, because there seems to be some question, ongoing, persistent questions about his leadership at this point now. So we'll get into all of that tonight. And we have other news too. And we have a special guest who will join us later in the broadcast. Regis Tremblay will make a return appearance here on Maverick News. And also in the chat tonight, you may see some old but familiar names in there, because a few people have been, they got a get out of jail free card from me last night. So if you see a couple of old names in there, don't be alarmed. It's all friendly. And as long as everything remains on an even keel in there, all should be well. So that's what's going on if you see some old friends in the chat. I'll be right back after this.
Greetings brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Too late. Too late. Too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
So tonight, I think we will push the stuff from Donald Trump just to the side for a moment. I'll just say this: the standoff, the game of chicken, Hormuz chicken. I think we should make a new board game. Hormuz chicken continues. The game of Hormuz chicken continues. I wouldn't say any real major new developments on that front. Trump's blockade of the blockade continues. It seems to be resonating as something absurd, which is appropriate given that they're playing a game of chicken. But yeah, a lot of criticism and yeah, a lot of mocking going on. So we'll get into that, but I'll just push it over there for the moment because for all of us here in Canada and all of our interested U.S. viewers, Prime Minister Carney continuing to make waves and make impressions in a positive way among Western allies worldwide, actually. And today, doing something that I think was entirely unexpected. I didn't see this coming. I mean, we've had calls from people saying we need relief at the pump and the gas pumps. Carney has indicated about a week ago that the federal government was looking at options. I didn't think he would do it. I didn't think he would do anything about it. But here today, the Prime Minister did what I would do if I were Prime Minister. I'm cutting taxes because of what Donald Trump is doing with the war in Iran and the blockade of the blockade, which is ensuring the world oil supply is still choked off in the Strait of Hormuz. Less supply equals higher prices. Prices persist at higher levels at the pumps. And Carney knows, because he is educated in economics. He's an economist. He knows that to have a robust, growing economy, you must have affordable energy, because energy is an input into every product and virtually every service provided on some level. Energy, the primary source of energy in Canada still today, oil. So if you want a functioning economy, a prosperous society, you need affordable energy. And that's what he's done today. He has cut the excise tax. It takes effect next week, goes right through until September. He's cutting the excise tax on gasoline. And it will have a dramatic impact on prices at the gas pumps. He's acting like a conservative.
We'll build a Canada that's not just strong, but good. Not just prosperous, but fair. Not just for some most of the time, but for all of the time.
He's talking about his overall plan.
We're building big, we're moving fast,
The nation
we're just
building
getting started.
projects.
But we also know that the road ahead will not always be straight. There'll be bumps, steep climbs along the way, and some of the payoffs from these big investments will take some time to be realized. And we know that Canadians are feeling the pressures of everyday expenses right now. We know they need a boost today and a bridge to tomorrow. And that's why Canada's new government has been relentlessly focused on making life more affordable for Canadians. We started as we meant to go on. On the first day, we canceled the divisive consumer carbon tax, driving prices down on gas by 18 cents per litre. We cut taxes for 22 million middle-class Canadians, saving families up to $840. Cut taxes on first-time home buyers, saving up to $50,000 by the elimination of GST on new homes priced under $1 million. More than 12 million Canadians will have more money in their bank accounts this summer, up to $1,800 per family through our new Canada Groceries and Essentials benefit. 5 millions de Canadiens et Canadiennes à faible revenu vont obtenir les prestations auxquelles ils ont droit grâce au lancement de versements automatiques de prestations fédérales. De plus,
with the challenges we're facing.
400 000 enfants ont accès à des repas sains, tandis que leurs parents économisent $800 par année en épicerie parce que nous avons rendu permanent le programme national d'alimentation scolaire. Grâce à notre nouveau partenariat stratégique avec la Chine, nous mettrons à disposition de dizaines de milliers de véhicules électriques à prix abordable au Canada. Nous avons renforcé la concurrence dans le secteur des télécommunications pour réduire le coût de l'accès à l'Internet haute vitesse pour les Canadiennes et les Canadiens. Pour vous. Now, we all know that because of the war with Iran, fuel prices have increased sharply around the world, including right here in Canada. So we're taking more action to help build that bridge over short-term pressures. With the Minister of Finance and the Minister of Natural Resources, we're announcing today that Canada's new government will temporarily suspend the federal fuel excise tax from next Monday until Labor Day. We're also removing the fuel excise tax on aviation fuels. This will remove up to 10 cents per liter on gasoline and 4 cents per liter on diesel fuel. Combined with our earlier elimination of the consumer carbon tax, our government will have reduced fuel prices on gas by up to 28 cents per liter. That's real relief for you and your family at the end of the day. Now, to be clear, today's cut to the fuel excise tax is a responsible, temporary measure consistent with what it takes to build a stronger economy, a more affordable economy, combined with sound fiscal management. When Canadians are facing financial pressures, they carefully manage their expenses, and they expect their government to do the same. That's why in Budget 2025, we made responsible choices to save Canadian taxpayers a total of $60 billion over 5 years. We're spending less on government operations so Canadians can invest more to build a brighter future for all. That responsible budgeting keeps your interest rates down, and it ensures we can protect the programs that make life more affordable for those who need it the most, including childcare, dental care, pharmacare, and school food programs. In the coming weeks, the Minister of Finance will present the Spring Economic Update with the next steps in our plan to build a stronger, more independent, more resilient Canada that works for all. En cette période de bouleversement...
Wow. Okay. And I mean, like, wow. Wow, wow, wow. For me, liberals have always been tax and spend liberals. I go back so many liberal leaders and prime ministers and just the repetition in that habit, tax and spend, tax and spend, tax and spend. I told you Carney's different. This is awesome. We may have had something like this had we had Poilievre in power instead. I'll take it either way. I don't care what political party they are with. I just want results on economic policy, on the economy, on the budget, on taxation. He's making the right moves. This will ensure that, well, unless fuel prices skyrocket to unmanageable levels, which is possible because of what Trump is doing in the Middle East. But this will stimulate other areas of the economy over the summer into the fall. This will make it this will create the conditions where families will still be able to afford to put gasoline in the tank of the car and take that vacation this summer. It will mean that hotels will continue to do business, restaurants, tourist destinations, communities in Canada that rely on the tourism industry. It will keep all of this functional, affordable, within reach of people. It had to happen. And I'm glad that the tax is being cut further. I wish, honestly, that he would just get rid of it and make it a permanent thing. But they do studies, and they look at how the tax will ultimately impact government revenue and consumer spending, your behavior. They look at the whole bucket of issues surrounding that. And this is why it had to happen. If the prices were allowed to persist, if they just let the prices rise to $1.80, $1.95, diesel right now is, I think today it's like $2.35 a liter for transport trucks. Do you know what that means to the prices of everything that you buy? That gets baked into the price of literally everything, because everything you have arrives by truck, one way or another. And that means that even services are affected by that, even digital services, even if it's stuff that isn't transported. There's electricity that has to be generated, homes have to be heated, supplies still need to come into the offices or the home studios or wherever people are working, whether they're at home or in a place of business, an office setting. Energy, everything, the whole economy is powered by energy. You have to have affordable energy. Without this, the other steps that have been taken to stimulate, to put into place stimulation for the upcoming tourist season, summer, fall, it would have been pretty much canceled out. A lot of people I know were beginning to cancel trips, family trips, vacations over the summer. And airlines too, very concerned about availability of jet fuel heading into the summer vacation time. So it absolutely needed relief. I don't care who gives it to us, as long as we get it, and we're getting it. It's very, very good news. Of course, in the House of Commons today, this still came up, and Andrew Scheer, I don't think Poilievre was in the House, and Carney was not in the House for question period today either, I guess. But we'll go here now to Parliament Hill. This was earlier today during question period. This was the exchange between the finance minister and Andrew Scheer of the Conservatives on this issue. They're having trouble finding a way to poke a hole in this or take the wind out of the Liberal sails at this point. After all the floor crossings, winning 3 by-elections, now they're cutting taxes even further, and all Andrew Scheer can come up with is, well, you should cut them even more.
This government has a clear mandate to continue.
Maybe they will.
Important issues that matter most to Canadians. And with these 3 newly elected colleagues and under the leadership of our Prime Minister, we will do just that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Here we go. Politics.
Oral questions. Questions orales. The Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
After weeks of Conservative pressure, Liberals finally admitted that their...
The Honourable Member for Hamilton West was standing. I don't know if he has a question. From the top, the Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
After weeks of Conservative pressure, Liberals finally admitted that their high fuel taxes are hammering Canadians at the pumps. But in typical Liberal fashion, this Prime Minister has proven to be just another Liberal, keeping more windfall taxes for government than providing relief for Canadians. The Liberal announcement today is That's simply not good enough. It's only going to provide a third of the relief for a third of the year. The Conservative plan is to scrap 100% of federal fuel taxes for the entire rest of the year. So if they're going to admit that Conservatives were right all along, why not just go all the way and adopt our full plan?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I know it's Tuesday. There's so much good news, I don't know where to start, Mr. Speaker. Just look at their face. Mr. Speaker, they should be smiling. The International Monetary Fund just announced that Canada is forecasted to have the second fastest growth in the G7, Mr. Speaker. In the G7. In addition, Mr. Speaker, we are suspending the federal fuel excise tax, Mr. Speaker, on gasoline from the 20th of April until Labor Day. Mr. Speaker, every day is a good day to...
The honourable member for Regina Capel.
Mr. Speaker, good times are almost here, just a little over the horizon, but right now there's no smile on motorists' face because they were expecting 100% relief at the pumps. Under this Liberal government plan, they will still continue to collect windfall taxes and hard-working Canadians will have to pay more at the pump. The Liberal government is keeping the GST on fuel and the fuel standard taxes, which adds alone 7 cents a litre. They are only providing a third of the relief for a third of the year. You don't give a pharmacist a high five when he only gives you 1/3 of your prescription. So why not just go all the way, reduce, scrap, eliminate 100% of fuel taxes for...
The Honourable Minister of Energy and Natural Resources.
Speaker, unlike the opposition who don't have a plan, we have a plan. We have reduced the price on gasoline by 28 cents a litre since we became the government. We
It's
are
true.
reducing
It's
taxes
true.
for Canadians. We are reducing GST for Canadians. We're reducing development charges on homes. In my riding, saving $200,000 a home. That's how you deal with affordability, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, while Canadians are struggling to pay for groceries, the Liberal government is once again proposing half measures. The government's announcement only affects a fraction of fuel costs, taxes, and only for a few months. That's 10 cents a litre. Meanwhile, one moment, please, says the Speaker. There is too much noise from the right and my right-hand area. You may start from the top again. Mr. Speaker, Canadians are struggling to pay for groceries, and the Liberals are once again proposing half measures. The government's announcement affects only a fraction of fuel taxes, only for a few months. This measure would amount to barely 10 cents per litre of gas, while costs are skyrocketing at the pump, and Canadians are paying much more than their neighbours to the south. Why are the Liberals refusing to really help Canadian families? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, it is Tuesday. We have so much good news. I don't even know where to start. In fact, this morning alone, the International Monetary Fund indicated that Canada will have the second fastest growth in the G7. Second, Mr. Speaker, announcement of the suspension of the federal excise tax on fuel and diesel. Gasoline and diesel, that's $2.4 billion in the pockets of Canadians, Mr. Speaker. That's excellent news for drivers, excellent news for consumers, and excellent news for Canadians and affordability. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg, Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, there will be good news when this government actually does things completely. For the last 3 years, we've been asking for the carbon tax to be struck. They've done that. Now we're asking for them to get rid of all of these taxes. Fuel excise tax, GST, fuel standards tax, industrial carbon tax. Will the government do something to actually help Canadians? Canadians are paying too much for everything. The Honourable Minister of Transformation. Mr. Speaker, I'm very proud of the announcement made this morning by the Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance, $2.4 billion for Canadians to deal with the cost of living. But we didn't stop there. 22 million Canadians received a tax cut. We have the Canadian benefits, groceries and essential benefit, the dental plan, and so many other measures. I can barely name them all. We've got no lessons to learn from them across the way in how to deal with the cost of living.
Foothill.
the Liberals' gas change amounts to what is really chump change. It's only for a third of the year, for a third of the
Here we go. Okay, so the opposition parties are like, it's just not good enough. Fair enough. And yeah, there has been, pressure on the government to do something. And now they're doing something, and that surprises me. I'll tell you this, if the opposition parties were in power, they probably wouldn't be going as far as they're trying to get the federal government to go, because they would be doing the math too. And they probably would be doing something close to what Carney is doing. So I don't know that it would be much different if you had a conservative party, the conservative party in power. Who knows? It's an unknown, right? And with Poilievre, I just don't know what you are likely to get. I just have to say, I'm just glad that the tax is being cut. It will actually, in my view, result in at least the same amount of revenue flowing into, well, probably still a little bit less because of the impact of taking the tax off. But you might even get the same or more of tax revenue going into the federal coffers, because people will still go on those vacations and spend all that other money that they would otherwise not spend if they were stuck at home. It would just put a stake into the heart of the economy. The prices at the grocery store are spiking. Inflation is on the rise. That is because of rising energy costs, not just at home either. I mean globally. So anything that's imported, higher fuel costs are baked into that as well. It doesn't matter if it comes from Europe, China, the United States, anywhere. Everything that is produced everywhere in the world right now costs more. It's worldwide because of what is happening in the Middle East, because of what Donald Trump has done with this zany war against Iran, where he clearly doesn't really know what the hell to do because plan A didn't work. And then he got the blockade, and now he's got a blockade on the blockade, and people are honestly laughing at him. But again, back here in Kazakhstan, pressure just outmaneuvered again by the Liberals. Carney has increased the size of his political tent. He's welcoming a broader cross-section of MPs into the Liberal camp. Some people don't like it. I get it, but it's happening. You're going to have to deal with it. Now he's got the majority government. They won all three of those ridings. Why do you think that happened last night? Because he has a vision, and it's a positive message. Poilievre, during the last election, and the Conservatives, their campaign strategy was to convince us all to vote against the Liberals, not to vote for the Conservatives. So it was a negative campaign. It did not resonate with Canadians, especially when the 51st state rhetoric was turned up, cranked up by Donald Trump. And I saw a comment from someone in the chat last night saying, well, Donald Trump said that he would rather deal with Mark Carney than a conservative government. So he really was sort of endorsing Carney, and so is Carney part of a big worldwide plot to take over the world and the evil cabal? No. Donald Trump said that because he's at war with liberalism. When I say liberalism, I mean even classical liberalism and even democracy itself. Classical liberalism, which is what all of Western society is based on. He is an illiberal politician, embracing illiberalism, which is anti-freedom, it's anti-liberal, anti-classical liberal. Not big L liberal party liberal. It means he's authoritarian, like Viktor Orban. Anyway, I'll come back to that in a moment. And you think that's conservatism? That is not conservatism. These people have been calling themselves conservatives and Republicans and whatever Conservative Party they say they represent. But even Pierre Poilievre is not that, as far as I can tell. He's not illiberal. Stephen Harper certainly is not illiberal. You can go back and find clips of Harper talking about the need to oppose illiberalism. And he was one of the most conservative prime ministers we've ever had. Certainly not, a red Tory. In any event, today we have, because Poilievre has allowed himself to be outmaneuvered, and his campaign team just hasn't read the room right, and he has trouble even within his own caucus, within his own party. He can't even keep his MPs in line, where he's being upstaged by MPs like Jamil Jivani, who just on his own goes off down into the United States to meet with the president and the vice president. Do you know how embarrassing that is for Pierre Poilievre? That if I were the leader of the Conservative Party and I had an MP do something like that, I'll tell you right now, I'd snap that boy back into place so hard, because that wasn't good for the party. It wasn't good for Conservatives. That was self-serving. That was a shot across the bow for Pierre Poilievre from a snot-nosed rookie MP who was way out of line, trying to embarrass Poilievre because he wants his job. If you view it as anything other than that, you are just misguided and don't understand politics. That's what Jamil Jivani did. Very disrespectful to a leader. Frankly, I think Poilievre is actually a very strong leader because he is articulate, he's witty, he's sharp on his feet, quick to respond to challenges in the House of Commons during question period. He is actually a very effective and good leader. He just has had some really bad advice from a campaign team that didn't understand what was really going on, does not understand what Canada is really about. Really, really bad advice. That's my take on it. I kind of feel bad for Pierre Poilievre in a lot of ways, but and as a result of all of that, and he's to blame because he took the advice and he let them give him his makeover, making him look cooler and hipper and getting rid of the glasses and the whole wardrobe makeover thing, so he looks kind of business-like, but business cash. I see it. It's all kind of fake, which is why I don't really know what we're going to get with the guy if he does get elected. I don't know what we have with him even now. As a result, calls for him to resign. It's there. The pressure is real today. The question not directed so much at Poilievre, who recently, by the way, I think within the last day or so, he came out and said that this is ridiculous. You're barking up the wrong tree here too, Pierre. He says Mark Carney is not well educated on economics. Duh. It's just so stupid. I don't know who told him to say that. You're really on the wrong track there, my friend. In any event, here's this question to the Prime Minister today. If you were in Pierre Poilievre's shoes, would you resign?
If you were Mr. Poilievre, would you quit today?
I don't. That's an unfair question. I can't look into the heart of Mr. Poilievre. I respect him as a parliamentarian, as I do the other leaders of the other parties, and we'll continue. I'll continue to work with him and all parliamentarians, as will my colleagues, to advance the interests of Canadians.
Next question.
Morning, Tonda McCharles, Toronto Star. Pierre Poilievre called you badly educated in economics, and he did.
Wow.
So I'd like to hear a little bit about.
Can I take back my previous answer? No, that's a joke.
You can respond if you wish. My question, though, is to get your view of how you assess the risk of recession in Canada and the impact on government revenues, and people's pocketbooks, given what you just referred to, turmoil in the Middle East that's causing energy and supply chain crunches?
Yeah. So, Ms. McCharles, this is an important and fundamental question, something that we think about constantly. And we design our economic response, myself with the minister and the rest of the cabinet, we design our economic response with that in mind. There is an enormous shock in the global economy that is undergoing right now because of the conflict, and we have to assess what's the best approach given our core plan. And what can we do in the short term? And so we're balancing support for Canadians with the measure today, with responsible fiscal management, and reinforcing the plan to build Canada strong on housing, on community infrastructure, energy infrastructure, new ports, et cetera, that is restoring investor confidence, both here in Canada and globally. We're rated one of the most attractive places now for foreign investment. I think we're going to see more of that. That's going to help create jobs for Canadians and keep this economy growing. I would note that literally in, the last hour or so, the IMF has just released its forecast for the global
International
economy.
Monetary Fund.
Canada is rated by the IMF as the second fastest growing economy in the G7. You will have seen in the last 2 months of GDP data, a return to growth of the economy after a short period. So return to growth there, forecast to be the second strongest in the G7. Clear plan that's addressing short-term issues in terms of affordability, which are real, but also staying the course, reinforcing that investment that this economy needs. And I just maybe finish and hand back, which is that we have to grow this economy to create the jobs for Canadians, and it's absolutely clear, it's been reinforced again by the events in the Middle East, we have to make our economy stronger and more independent. And if there's a unifying theme in our economic strategy, it's strength and independence. And so we'll continue to do that, and that becomes self-reinforcing. And I can tell you, based on you can put an adjective in front of my economic education, economic experience, that is the type of strategy that really pays dividends. It compounds to the benefit of Canadians over time, and that's why we're sticking with it.
I didn't finish my thought on Trump and the endorsement of Carney. That wasn't an endorsement of Carney. You don't get it, if that's what you think. It's easier for him to have a Liberal government in Canada because that gives him an enemy to fight with. It gives him a target. You need a target. You need to have a socialist government. He'll say commie, right? Commie. It's not a communist government, not by a long shot. But this gives him an opponent, an adversary in Mark Carney and the Liberals, because he's against liberalism, and they've got the big L on their brand, on their party. They are somewhat socialistic, right? We have a socialistic government, but it is a capitalist government. It is not communist, not at all. It's not authoritarian. It is a parliamentary democracy. We do not have a king who rules. We have a king who reigns. I've explained all of this over the last few nights. I keep coming back to it. There's so much misunderstanding. But Trump wanted Carney to be the prime minister so he could say, we have to go save them. We have to liberate them. So Tucker Carlson has somebody to target. Mark Carney, the evil Mark Carney, the evil Liberals, blah, 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 blah. If Poilievre were in power, and they've got the PC, or the CPC now, Conservative Party of Canada, CPC, you've got a conservative brand on a political party. How does Donald Trump accuse a conservative party in Canada of being a bunch of commies? It's much more difficult. And the reality is, the economic policies would only be a different shade of gray, of capitalistic gray, depending on who you have in power. And with Carney in that position, fiscally, he's very conservative. Socially, I don't know. It remains to be seen. He still hasn't really dealt that robustly with a lot of those other issues. I'm still waiting to see. And I'll tell you, there are things on the social side that I will absolutely not agree with when it comes to Mark Carney, or I may not agree fully with them. And I may oppose some aspects of some bills, but I am not an absolutist when it comes to these things. I just want results. So right now, we've got the tax cuts. Right now, we've got all of this going on. But that's why Trump said what he said about Carney. And did it really seem to you like during Davos that Mark Carney and Donald Trump are best of friends? They kind of get along. Trump respects him because he knows who he is. He knows about his background as a central banker, England, Canada. Their paths have crossed. They're familiar with each other. And he knows he's not a communist. I think in many respects, Trump is probably afraid of him because he's so damn smart and so well educated on matters of economics, finance, business. And Trump's kind of a doofus when it comes to that stuff. He only knows one thing: tariffs, which don't really work the way that he thinks that they work. They're doing so much damage, not just to Canada and other countries, but to the United States itself. It's terrible what he's doing. It's gross. And a lot of it is self-serving. And Carney is hip to his tricks, man. He knows that Donald Trump is rigging everything. He knows he's corrupt. He's the most corrupt president in the history of U.S. presidents, the likes of which the world has never seen before. It's disgusting. And I wasn't clued in Trump 1.0. It wasn't like this. It wasn't anything like this, not to this degree. This, what's going on now, is like off the charts ridiculous. And that's why people are mocking him. Mocking him. We're going to come back to that. I'll be talking to Regis Tremblay about it from Crimea very shortly when he joins us on the program. That's coming up. So don't go away. We're going to dig into it. We'll have Regis on shortly, and we have a few more of today's top news stories to share with you on the other side of this.
Maverick News. Fighting for freedom.
I'm just going to dip into the chat here for a moment. Yeah, 127B51. I know you want Canada to become the 51st state. Congratulations. And I don't think that's going to happen, my friend. And criticizing blah, blah, blah. Yeah. It goes till September, the tax cut. And you know what that does? That means it's actually smarter for the government to do what they're doing rather than commit to the end of the year. Because with the way that Trump is behaving, there's no way to predict where we're going to even be in September. So this means that the federal government leaves itself a lot of wiggle room. They can extend the tax cut. They can just go back to the way that it was. It gives them options. So it's actually smart for them to do it this way because they still need to balance the budget or stay within their budget targets, and they need to keep inflation under control. And a tax cut could contribute to inflation if something happens to oil prices and they come plummeting down, and then they leave the tax off, and that would effectively stimulate the economy in ways that he hadn't anticipated. So, no, I think that it's fine to put that kind of timeline on it. He can always extend it if necessary later. And I would like to see much lower fuel prices because I have always been of the view that low fuel prices stimulate the economy overall. Who else is in the chat tonight? And Lindy, okay, who can afford to go on vacation regardless of the gas? Well, I mean, inflation is a big issue, right? But thank God they are cutting the tax, because without that, we'll be in a much different place. And if you think about it, when Justin Trudeau was in power, I often saw gas at like $1.80, $1.85, $1.60, $1.70, $1.79 a liter. And that was without all this turmoil. Then Carney comes in and he cut the tax, just the way the Conservatives were talking about it. And Lindy, no, it's not. You guys, you still don't get it. Is our choice 51st state or New World Order? Neither. There's another choice. You're not getting it because you're not seeing that you're being lied to. Just like 1272B51 talking about we wouldn't be in this situation if it wasn't for Carnage's values. I just read the book. So I know what the book is about. And yeah, you can jump to conclusions and you can interpret it in particular ways if you choose to. But you are so misguided, my friend. No. And the people criticizing Carney based on his values, they're twisting his words. I will be reviewing the book and I will be telling you how they're doing that. They're warping your minds. Warping your minds. It is a global thing, and it is a new world order. It's a reordering of the world. No question about it. And there are two visions for that. But in order to achieve their goals, both sides have a vision. And I'm telling you right now that Donald Trump is at the heart of it. And it's a strong, steady march toward his view of a new world order, dividing the world up into spheres of domination. That means taking over all these countries. You follow that guy, guaranteed you're going to get a world war. You are going to get, you're going to lose your sovereignty. You're going to lose your country. He will take over everything in the Western Hemisphere, from Greenland all the way to Central America, maybe down even below that. We've shown you the map. Trump is behind it. He has this oligarchy. He's bringing, it's a convergence of political ideologies, communism, fascism. He's bringing in his oligarch friends, the technocrats. That's what formed this populist movement, which is authoritarian, very right-wing in a sense, but it's also very left-wing because they're basically both similar because they both by default become authoritarian. They're not democratic. If you want to lose your freedom, just keep going, continue to follow that crap because that's where it's going. And if you can't see it, you're just willfully blind at this point. You really do need to wake up, but that means not just getting all of your information from these short clips on TikTok or Twitter. Short clips don't give you full context. Short clips, a lot of them, are edited and manipulated to mislead you. They are short for a reason. They are short because they're engaging. They're short because people have short attention spans. They do not fully explain issues, and they are easy to manipulate, easy to present in ways that are misinterpreted simply through implying what somebody means by something, and often by cutting words out or butting things together. It's going on constantly. Constantly. You are under psychological attack. This program, long form. I let whole clips run. I've been talking about this ever since I sat back down in this chair, how many years ago now? And I keep saying, I let things run full length to make sure you get the full context when somebody says something. That's why when people wanted me to comment on his book, Carney's book, I said, I haven't read the full book. What do you think of it? I'm reserving judgment. I haven't read it, so I've read it now. I've read the whole damn thing, cover to cover. I've gone back over some sections, and I'm going to go back over some of those sections again before I fully comment on it. But 1272B51, LBGTQSP222, ABCDEFG, whoever you are, you don't know shit. Mr. 51. But you keep it up in the chat. Respectfully, you don't know shit because, and if you do, you're intentionally misleading people because the book is mischaracterized. I'll get into the climate change stuff. There are issues surrounding all of that, but it is being misrepresented to you. And I'm not, it's not so much a defense of the book. I've got some issues with some of what he talks about in it, but I will give you what I think is a fair, hopefully more unbiased review of the book than anything you've probably read anyplace else, because everything I'm reading about that, most, like 90% of it, is coming from right-wing influencers who have one objective, and that is to basically attack and smear because they have a political agenda. So you go ahead if you want and just keep on going down that path where I'm in this camp and therefore I'm only listening to this and I'm never going to listen to that. And you will do so to your own detriment. You'll suffer because of it. I've been saying for a long time too, a lot of the people around us are so rude, they are so opposed to any kind of change, and they've been so injected with fear that paranoia rules their lives now. That's not a path forward for us. You can't just live in constant fear and denial and think that by sticking your head in the sand or going over there and hiding in the corner, it's going to stop the march of technology. If you want a job, if you want your kids to have a job in the future, if you want your kids to have a future, then you need to embrace the future, learn to live with the future, whatever it is going to be, learn to cope with the future, and get involved to make sure that whoever is in charge in the future is held accountable. And so that the technology that is employed in the future, whether it's artificial intelligence, quantum mechanics, quantum physics, fusion energy, whatever it is, that you get involved and you help form the policies, the laws, the legislation, the guardrails that are put in place to make sure that you don't get jacked into an internet through Neuralink and become part of the matrix, and they end up storing you on some digital chip. Because being afraid of everything and getting your bag ready to go run into the woods at the first sign of trouble with your backpack filled with, I don't know, dehydrated beans or something, and then you're going to go live in a lean-to and think that you're going to save yourself that way. This is ridiculous. All the preppers out there, did you buy your dehydrated food supply to take out in when you got your bug out bag? Screw that. I'm staying in my house, standing my ground. If it comes to that, I'm going to defend my home. I'm not going to go run away. And I'm going to prepare for the future. I'm not going to hide from it. I'm going to acknowledge that it's happening. And I'm going to do what I think is, going to help everybody in the future, including my kids and hopefully yours. But if you want to keep driving your 1974 Buick Riviera with the 455 and keep blowing it out your dual exhaust, that's fine. But you're going to pay for it, and you're not coming into the future because, my 77 Plymouth with a 360 V8 4-barrel carburetor only produced about 180 horsepower and got shitty fuel economy. Now a 5-liter V8 engine from Ford produces 450 horsepower out of the box, normally aspirated, no turbocharger, and it gets better fuel economy than a Ford Pinto did back in the early 1970s with a 4-cylinder engine. Because technology marches on. I said 10 years ago, I'm on a roll here. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I said the problem with electric vehicles is they don't have enough range and they take way too long to charge. I said the answer, and I actually talked to some people in the auto industry about this back at that time, like probably going back about 15 years, just in passing. So what you need to be doing is you need to set up a system where you can drive in on the side of a highway or in town and exchange your battery the same way some people exchange a propane fuel tank at a store. They don't fill it up. You just exchange your tank. Not difficult to do. If you think about it, you just drive in. You can have somebody down in a like what looks like an oil change pit. You can have banks of batteries pre-charged. You drive in and you just drop the battery out of the floor of the vehicle, which would have a shield on it too. Then a new battery just rises up into place, fully charged. You're in and out in minutes. For whatever reason, nobody thought of that until now. And you know who thought of it? The Chinese. It's happening. It solves a lot of the problems, and they're doing it, and they have the technology. It's not actually that difficult. The future is coming. Deal with it. Or just live your life in fear. Or stand up for yourself, stand up for your rights, stand up for your family, stand up for your country, stand up for freedom, stand up for sovereignty, stand up for self-determination, stand up for yourself, stand up for being an individual, stand up. Stop bending over, because that's what you're all doing. I'm going to go run into the woods and got my bug out bag. I'm prepping. What are you prepping for? You're not prepping for the future. You're prepping for some Martian invasion or something. And when they come and they invade and then they're going to, get real. Because if you don't, you're going to get left behind. We'll all get left behind. I'm not saying that gasoline cars shouldn't be available. I'm saying let people choose. There's still a place for them, certainly today. But the electric vehicle industry is there, and it's real, and it's happening globally. And if you want to build cars and Donald Trump doesn't want to be involved with us, then deal with it. No, we have to bend over and let him give it to us up the butt. It's the only choice. We're just not good enough. We just suck. We all suck so much, and what are we going to do? We have to take it up the ass. No, we don't. Screw him. Do you know how strong we're going to be in the future? Do you know how important our country is going to be on the world stage moving forward? Incredibly important. It's already emerging. Have you been listening to what other world leaders have been saying about Canada? Because of what Carney did at Davos, because of what Carney's even doing today. I'm listening to even social media influencers in the States this week saying, I've been really keeping an eye on that Mark Carney up there in Kazakhstan. Literally, they're talking about him. He's got really good ideas. Yeah, no shit. No shit. He has a vision. That's why people voted for him. Poilievre has failed to deliver a vision. All he has done is shit on the country, shit on the policies, attack, negative. That is not a winning strategy. It could be if your opponent doesn't really have a focused vision, which Trudeau kind of didn't, because I'll tell you right now, he was bending over, taking it up the butt. He was not strong. He wasn't going to stand up to Trump. What did he say to Trump when he went down to that meeting that got us all into this predicament to begin with? Trump was like, I think you should, what would happen what was the industry that he mentioned? If we did such and such and such and such, or if we did this to the auto industry, I think it was the auto industry, and Trudeau said to him, because he's a freaking idiot, he says, well, Canada would cease to exist, I think is what he said, or something to that effect. It was just moronic and weak. So screw him. Glad he's gone. Don't care about the brand. What I care about is frickin' results. And I'm glad that I'm not an American today. I was out for my morning walk, looking up at the sky, and I was talking to somebody on the phone about all of this shit. Watching the buds get ready to burst on the trees into leaves. And I was thinking to myself, man, I am so glad I live here. So glad I live here right now, because I want nothing to do with this authoritarian dick in the White House who's clearly losing his mind. Screw that guy. Screw everything he's doing. He hurts people. He's killing people. He's posting videos of murders on his Truth Social page. And people are like, yeah, well, that's Trump being Trump. No, that's an insane person doing horrific things that nobody should be accepting. And he's now attacking his closest allies, his closest friends, the people who've supported him most. Like Giorgia Meloni, leader of Italy. Because why? Oh, because she said that, what Trump said about the Pope, no shit, is unacceptable. He's gone to war with the Pope. Yeah. So now he's like,
Maloney,
she's weak.
who
She's
you see the
she's
two
weak.
of them there, they have had pretty friendly relations. Took a shot at the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, who you see the two of them there, they have had pretty friendly relations up until this moment in time. He said, she had said that his attacks on the Pope were unacceptable. President Trump responded to that, saying it's her who's unacceptable because she doesn't care if Iran has a nuclear weapon and would blow up Italy in 2 minutes if they had a chance. Took a shot at the Italian Prime Minister.
No, you just don't care if the world gets blown up and a nuclear weapon. Well, it's just stupid. That's not true. Of course she cares about that. But it's not just what you do, it's how you do it. It's how you do it. And so, yeah, today, I think she responded to him, actually. Yeah, she did. Here, I've got the clip. And she's right. Making these stupid statements about the Pope. Unacceptable.
All'Europa, agli Stati Uniti e all'Occidente in generale.
What she says, because I believe this is good for Europe, the United States, and the West in general. Says, do you think Trump might apologize? She says, well, I think what I said is that I think the statements in particular about the pontiff were unacceptable. I expressed my solidarity with Papa Leone. I'll tell you more frankly, I wouldn't feel comfortable in a society where religious leaders do what political leaders say. Let's say not in this part of the world. That's why I disagreed and told you so. Yeah. Because what he said was disgusting, gross, weird. It's so bad. I'd heard getting into Trump 1.0 from some people saying, I think Trump's the Antichrist. And I was like, no. No, come on. It's so stupid. See, a lot of this stuff sounded so ridiculous even back then that I was like just dismissive of it. I'm not listening to that. That's just silly. I don't know anymore, man. And then even today, literally, I see, well, today Rick Wilson from the Lincoln Project, his Substack, asking that very question. Is Donald Trump the Antichrist? And he's only half, like, he's not really joking because everything is lining up in his behavior, what he's doing, what he's posting, what he's saying. Like, it's like, yeah, it's true. It's true. So you may, I don't know. It's that bad. And he's made himself a laughing stock. You know, he really, Iran is mocking him. People all over the world are mocking him. He, of course, was the subject of jokes on the late night talk show circuit last night. We had Jon Stewart and Jimmy Kimmel both just roasting him easily. And then you're getting these memes from all over the place. Because he said, then he comes out and he says, because I don't know why everybody thinks I look like Jesus, because I posted that on Truth Social because I thought I was like a doctor healing people. So now we're getting this stuff. Oh, Rick, you have TDS. No, I don't. No, he's...
Your health great again. Are you suffering?
The internet is full of this stuff tonight. Just full of these crazy Trump memes. And I don't know. Healthcare, trying to heal people. I'm just going to remind you again, he is the father of the vaccine. If you have issues with with the vaccine mandates, you know, for me it's an issue of choice. For other people, you know, you don't think it was safe. You know, I don't think it was tested adequately. He's the guy who brought in Operation Warp Speed to do an end run around all the retesting that would normally be required. Oh no, don't worry about testing it. You don't need to do that test. Just do that one there and that, and everything will be fine. Just get it out there. He's the father of all that. Just to remind you, okay? And you're talking about a new world order. Yeah, this guy right here.
It shows you how unpainful that vaccine shot is, so everybody go get your shot.
It works incredibly well, 95%, maybe even more than that. It works incredibly well, and I would recommend it to a lot of people that don't want to get it, and a lot of those people voted for me, frankly. But, you know, it's a great vaccine, it's a safe vaccine, and it's something that works.
I recommend you take it, but I also believe in your freedoms 100%.
But he
when
didn't
you
do
have
anything
the
to protect
vaccine,
those freedoms.
people that do, and it's a very small number relatively, but people that do get it get better much quicker. And it's a very important thing to know.
I recommend take the vaccines. I did it. It's good. Take the vaccines. But no, that's okay. That's all right. You got your freedoms. But I happen to take the vaccine. You're playing right into their hands when you sort of like, oh, the vaccine. If you don't want to take it, you shouldn't be forced to take it. No mandates. But take credit, because we saved tens of millions of lives. Take credit. Don't let them take that away from you.
Both the president and I are vaxxed, and did you get the booster?
Yes.
I got it too. Okay, so...
Don't.
Trump said, I don't want to hear about questioning this so-called vaccine again. I call it a so-called vaccine. He said, I don't want to hear about this again from anybody. I think it's good, and that's it.
And that's it. So, again, I'm not married to any politician. I never endorsed him. I said some mighty nice things about Donald Trump over quite a few years. I saw his rise in popularity, and yeah, I'd say that the broadcast certainly had a very hard pro-Trump stance, no question about it. But never endorsed the guy, because we don't endorse politicians here, not as a news operation. And tonight, he's under heavy attack.
Wow, Prime
Worldwide.
Minister Mark Carney of Canada brought the House down at the Liberal Party convention in Montreal. He was not holding back in his scathing condemnation of Donald Trump, but most importantly, his apotheosis to Canada. Canada strong, Canada unites, Canada the leader of the free world. As Donald Trump has tanked the United States, Canada soars, and Prime Minister Carney used this incredible speech to convey the accomplishments, not just of his tenure as the Prime Minister of Canada, but of the people of Canada, of the Midas Maple. Shout out to you all standing up right now for human rights, for dignity, for Canada, for the free world. Watch as Prime Minister Carney just laid it all out to a standing ovation. Play this clip.
The days of our military sending 70 cents of every dollars to the United States are over. We are going to build Canada strong with Canada steel, Canadian aluminum, Canadian lumber, Canadian workers.
And then Prime Minister Carney said that Canada, we are the masters of our own destiny. Play this clip.
No, this is not the time for politics as usual, for petty differences, for political point scoring. United, we will build Canada strong. A Canada for all, a Canada strong that no one can ever take away. I feel that strength. I feel that strength in this room. I feel that strength. I feel that strength. As Diana mentioned, we feel that strength across this great country. At this decisive moment, Canadians are demonstrating just how strong we are. You know, It started quietly. People choosing a wine from the Okanagan over one from California. Anyone had any bourbon recently? No, I think so. No. Sorry. A family planning a vacation to Prince Edward Island instead of booking flights to Florida. Canadians are rediscovering our country. The Cabot Trail in October. The Columbia Icefield in June. Le Festival International de Jazz à Montréal en juillet. The prairies at harvest where the sky goes on forever.
Look, it's just, he's just waxing poetic. It's all positive imagery, right? It's that is in itself a form of nationalism. He's pro-Canada. I just, whatever. And Trump, the butt of jokes. I don't know if you saw the stuff. Let's see here. Do I have him? Did you see that the whole thing, the Jesus post, freaking weird. And I didn't really actually pick up on this. But the image, I think I still have it up actually from yesterday. There, yeah, well, you can see it here. This is There's the image on the one side. I didn't notice, but that guy kind of looks like Jeffrey Epstein. I was like, he did look familiar to me in a way yesterday, but I'd never commented on it. And then Jon Stewart did his late night thing and roasted Trump over this. If you look at it closely, you could also say it looks like Jon Stewart. So he picked up on that. Kimmel picked up on the Epstein thing. A lot of others also commenting that Trump has his hand on the forehead of Jeffrey Epstein. And then, of course, he made an excuse and said, I didn't think that I was posting a picture of myself as Jesus. I looked like a doctor.
Mr. President, did you post that picture of yourself depicted as Jesus Christ?
Well, it wasn't depicted. It was me. I did post it, and I thought it was me as a doctor, and had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker there, which we support. And only the fake news could come up with that one. So I just heard about it, and I said, how did they come up with that? It's supposed to be me as a doctor making people better, and I do make people better. I make people a lot better.
Yeah. Him as a doctor. Well, the memes get more violent, like this one. This is like a Donald Trump Jesus smackdown. And I warn you, there's blood in this.
Your reckoning has come. What is this?
Okay, we're back. We lost our link there momentarily, but I think you saw that. So let me take a little break here, and we'll come back on the other side of this, and we'll be getting into our interview with Regis Tremblay momentarily. Don't go away.
Maverick News isn't just a news outlet, it's a community of truth seekers. Your donation at freedomreporters.com fuels our mission to report the stories that mainstream media won't touch. Thank you, Maverick family.
Okay, we're back. Yeah, the link got severed there for a moment. Anyway, you're getting the feel of what's going on out there, and that is one of the things that we are going to talk about with Regis Tremblay. Of course, Regis, as you may recall, a journalist, filmmaker, documentary producer, lived in the United States for a long time, also lived for a short time in Canada. He, at one time, was a Catholic priest. So I was eager to talk to Regis, and I reached out to him, asked him if he would join us on the program, because I want Regis's opinion on all of this this stuff with the Pope and Donald Trump's feud, the war that Donald Trump has declared on the Pope, and the reaction that we're seeing worldwide from all of that. This is costing him big time. So we're going to go to that. We're also going to talk a little bit about what has happened in Hungary and the defeat of Viktor Orban over there. Because here's something, and I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty on this with Regis, but to make my point a little clearer about this New World Order, or the reordering of the world and who's really behind it, and why I've come to realize that we've been misled, not so much by the mainstream media, but because we've been convinced to not listen to that side at all and get focused over here. They're filling our heads with whatever it is that they want us to hear. And it's full of lies, misdirection, because they're the ones carving the world up into these spheres of domination. And to drive that point home, I'm just going to illustrate for you again, what just happened in Hungary. Trump and J.D. Vance both campaigning actively, openly for Viktor Orban. This has never happened before. A vice president going to another country and participating in a campaign, going right to a rally, speaking at a campaign rally to support the leader of another political party, the leader of a country, try to get him reelected. That is direct foreign interference. The United States has always at least tried to hide that through covert activity, CIA infiltration, information warfare campaigns. But no, Vance went there and stood up on the stage and actually gave a speech, and then called Trump, and Trump also speaking through a cell phone to the crowd at the rally for Viktor Orban. He ultimately lost the election over the weekend, as I'm sure all of you know. But if you can't see that there's this overlap, and that it's Trump, it's Xi Jinping, it is Vladimir Putin, that they're all kind of involved in the reshaping of the world in their own way. They have their vision. And here, let me show you what I'm talking about. Here's Professor Scott Lucas. Don't take my word for it. Other people are seeing it. Educated, learned people. Maybe he'll explain it clearer, because I don't think what I'm saying is resonating with you guys.
I just want to highlight this, and because I know people in Ukraine will get the significance of this. What we witnessed in Budapest on Wednesday was the Vice President J.D. Vance at a campaign rally for Viktor Orban saying that the enemy of both the Trump administration and of the Orban government is the European Union. Not Russia. Russia's not the enemy. The European Union is the enemy. So let that sink in. Now let this sink in. That means that the Trump administration and Vladimir Putin are both interfering in Hungary's election to support the same person, Orban. You know, we've talked for years about whether or not Donald Trump is a Russian asset, whether the Trump people are allied with the Russians. Well, here you have a case where we know they are both pursuing the same goal: keep Orban in power. Now, why? Why do that? Well, Vladimir Putin's got his motives. He wants someone that's working with him within NATO to block, or within the EU, to block the European Union, especially from supporting Ukraine. For J.D. Vance and his officials, and his group are very powerful within the Trump administration, they said in December, in the national security strategy, we want to undermine the European Union, and we want European nationalist movements, by which you largely mean white nationalist movements, to take power in countries in Europe. And those movements would include Germany's AfD, hard right, arguably neo-Nazi. It would include the National Rally in France. It would include the Reform Party in the UK. It would include a return to not just to a right-wing president, but to a hard right government in Poland, for example. That's the mission. In other words, it's not just that the Trump camp is no longer allied with Europe. They're trying to undermine Europe by putting their people, or the people they like, in place. And that's the threat to Ukraine's security. That's the threat to Europe's security. because someone like a Viktor Orban does not believe in Ukraine's security. There is the threat that the president in Czechia, Mr. Babiš, does not believe in Ukrainian security. There's obviously Robert Fico in Slovakia, who is a threat to Ukraine's security. That's the attempt. The attempt is to take over Europe, and I think all eyes have to be on Vance right now. Because the thing is, Donald Trump's chaotic. He's a man who rules by tweet at midnight or 1 a.m. in the morning. J.D. Vance is smart. He's ambitious. He's smart. He is relentless. And so this idea of undermining Europe, this isn't just a passing thought. He has tried to do that since February 2025 at the Munich Security Conference, where he gave that speech that the U.S. doesn't need to Europe. And as he tries to become president, and he is running for president to succeed Donald Trump, he is going to continue on that mission.
This is something new, but old. This is not communism. This is not fascism. This is communofascism. This is the convergence. This is communofascism with technocratic influence from the tech bros. J.D. Vance controlled by Peter Thiel, Palantir. This is the technocracy converging with the communofascistic ideology. This is Alexander Dugin. This is guaranteed World War III if we continue marching down this path. The defeat of Viktor Orban is a pullback from that. It's a huge defeat for the global populist communofascistic movement. It's not focused on freedom. It's not focused on individualism. It's the opposite of all of that. It's imperative that you really begin to understand this. A lot of this is we've been sheltered from because it's viewed by some leaders over here as being ideology and thoughts that are so dangerous, which they are, that they didn't really want you to know about it. They didn't want you reading about it. And so efforts have been made to temper the availability of some of that material. But I've been reading, and it is dangerous because some people embrace it. But I'll tell you right now, it guarantees that there will be this assault on every country around the world as sovereignty is taken away. The strategy overall is to divide. Divide by taking over countries, divide by promoting the division of unions of countries on economic and social fronts. It's part of the strategy that is laid out right in Dugin's books is to encourage and support separatist movements in countries, which is what happened in Ukraine, which is what's happening here in Canada. And they don't have to start these movements, but they support them through information warfare, through dark money, shadow funding, and even just now, outright blatant campaigning for governments that are on that side of the political spectrum. And so you can support that if you want to support it, but I'm just telling you that if you do, we're going to war, because these countries, for the most part, are not going to just lay down and take it up the butt. They're going to protect their sovereignty. And in some cases, a lot of the cases, it doesn't mean they're just going to come in and invade or take over. They're going to try to install puppet governments. But even now, you're seeing that it's really not working, because now Trump is upset with Giorgia Meloni, who's been one of his allies. Because why? Because she actually does care about her country. And she's balking at going to war with Iran. But the thing is, it's like somehow I think Trump knew that the allies of the United States would not come together on this front, because you see, ultimately, he doesn't really care about Europe. That is in Vladimir Putin's backyard. So destabilize, assist in the transformation of the world, yes, but ultimately the United States is not going to get directly involved in whatever is going on over in Europe, and he's just giving the people over there that are supportive of that political ideology a helping hand along the way to push in that direction. And Putin will stay out of the affairs over here, and I think that in their minds, this is what will lead to world peace, because then you have the superpowers of the world, essentially, not fighting with each other. You stay out of my backyard, I'll stay out of yours, but we control all this. This is our territory. But that means dividing, forcing submission, and then absorbing. And through that process, you're going to have conflict as they try to reshape this world into a reordering of the world. See, the thing about if you look at it the other way around, the whole George Soros, Klaus Schwab, blah, 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 that's the old world order. It really is. They're lying to you. Accuse those that accuse your enemy of doing what it is you're doing. Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. You know. Anyway, I will touch on this a little bit with Regis in a moment. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty and the deep dive on that. We're really going to talk mostly about Iran tonight. And I think his views on this, because he's living and has moved to Crimea, he's living in effectively Russia. So his views are a lot different than mine on this particular subject. But that's okay too, because we give a voice to everyone here. And I absolutely have a lot of respect for Regis, because at the end of the day, I know that he's a real person, a real journalist, and he is interested in peace. And we'll be back in a moment with my friend from Crimea, Regis.
Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Regis Tremblay, welcome back, sir. Great to have you here on Maverick News again, all the way from Crimea. First of all, are you okay? Because it's a dangerous place these days.
Well, Rick, thanks for having me back. It's always a pleasure and very enjoyable talking with you. I'm in Yalta, and we've been fortunate. We haven't been targeted, but Crimea is targeted every single day and night by drones from Ukraine. And when that happens, you lose the internet at times. They shut it down. And this is what happened the other night when we tried to do this very same program. But it looks to me tonight we're solid.
That's good. Yeah, we were trying to get together yesterday, but the internet wasn't really stable. And I guess that's related to all of the internet disruptions and the war. And And that just highlights the risk and that, that you're living with every day over there.
Yeah, we were driving back from Sevastopol, which has been targeted every day. And they don't report a lot of this in the news here. But we were driving back, and all of a sudden, we heard what sounded like a shooting range. Bam, 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 bam. And I rolled a window down, and I said, "That's not gunfire." They were actually Russian missile defense rockets or whatever they shoot. And then we saw a drone that was flying in front of us and doing all kinds of evasive maneuvers. And these shots kept coming. And then the drone disappeared down to our right, which is the Black Sea. It's not more than a kilometer away from where this highway is. And then we heard an explosion, boom. Never heard anything on the news, whether it just crashed, whether it hit its target. But that's the first time I've come in contact with it directly.
Well, it's timely to be having this conversation, which we weren't actually planning on talking about at all. This just kind of where things started during this conversation. But I just read an article about Ukraine using drones for the first time, just drones actually being used to capture a position in a battle. And so I think that that's being highlighted today. And that just, for me, highlights what this war has been. It has really been the first war of the drones, technology changing everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, the entire world is watching this. Everybody's making drones, from Ukraine to Iran to China. The United States seems to be lagging behind, and they're hopeful they're learning something from this conflict that they have been engaged with against Russia since 2014. They've dumped over $300 billion worth of cash, which disappears, and military hardware, much of which Russia has destroyed. But what's happening now is actually drone warfare, both sides. And, I have to tell you that Ukraine has achieved some measure of success with attacking deep inside Russia. There have been all kinds of stories that the only way that these drones could have hit certain parts of Russia would have been if they passed over the Baltic states, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, and then entered Russia instead of coming directly from Ukraine. There are other stories that insist that Ukraine is being helped with satellite coordinates and have been able to avoid Russian missile defense systems. So who knows? But, this technology of using drones to fight now is here to stay. How this is going to play out in future conflicts, who knows?
Well, I think it also shows that for any nation state now to preserve its sovereignty, you not only need guns and soldiers and even drones, you need satellites. So you need a space program if you really want your sovereignty now, because you need surveillance, you need GPS coordination. So it's a technology game.
Yeah, this is exactly what it is. And, I wouldn't be surprised if one country or another starts attacking another country's satellites. That's been talked about for years, doing warfare in space, which, nobody wants, but the United States certainly is pursuing it. They've made it very public. Trump created his Space Force, and their whole mission is to conquer space and to deny other nations access to space.
Yeah.
So, we're really living in very difficult times. When you think about what countries like Russia and China, especially, well, India now, they're into space. What these other countries are thinking about now, knowing that war can very easily move into space, shooting down another country's satellites.
Oh, yes.
And that when you talk about doing that, you can talk about shutting down an entire country, complete shutdown of everything, electricity, which means no lights in the city, no traffic lights, nothing using electricity is going to work. This is the kind of warfare that we're looking at, Rick. It's really here today. All it takes is for one country to do that.
Yeah, in fact, Canada is building a spaceport as we speak out on the East Coast. And Canada's defense minister has openly said that, yeah, there are, domestic reasons for doing this and commercial reasons, but he has acknowledged that, yes, there will be military applications for this. And I think that's largely, too, because of the threats that Canada has been under from the United States, or specifically Donald Trump, about annexing us and making us the 51st state. This is a real concern for a lot of people up here.
My own opinion is, I think Trump is he's unhinged. He's really lost it. I think the rest of the world is figuring that out. I think the Iranians have got such a psychological profile on him. And what they're doing is they're taunting him now. You get all of these Lego short videos using artificial intelligence that are mocking him endlessly, daily. And now there's other companies, I don't know where they are, other places in the world that are piggybacking on this, mocking Trump for all of his failures. And, from one minute to the next, he says, we've won. And the next minute he says, well, we're walking away from this and none of our goals have been achieved. I think he really, he doesn't have it together. I use the Latin phrase, non compos mentis. He doesn't have the mental ability anymore to think rationally, to understand what's going on around him. And, I think in that sense, he's really dangerous. In terms of Iran, I really hope that this direct war is over, that he realizes that he's lost. He's talking about a blockade. And
a blockade.
The States, with naval ships. And Russia told him, China told him, just don't attack any of the ships that are coming from the Straits of Hormuz to Asia and to China. Don't do it. And I just hope that Hegseth and the rest of them are not stupid enough, are smart enough not to do anything.
Well, that's just it. This blockade of a blockade really is another escalation, but it's an escalation against whom? Like, who is he blockading? He's not blockading Iran, just Iran. Now they're blockading, or Trump is blockading all countries. He's blockading the world.
That's correct. And he, he says to Americans, don't worry. Your gas will go up a little bit, but it'll be okay. It's temporary. And yet, as you mentioned, Rick, it's global. He has attacked the global supply chain that every single country in the world depends on to one measure or another. And Rick, it's not only countries, it's the banking systems, it's the central banks, it's the insurance companies. It's these high-tech companies, Silicon Valley, all of them are being affected by this. And Rick, you have to wonder, is this by accident, or is this by design?
Oh, it's a plan. As crazy as he is, there is a method to his madness. I'm fairly certain of that. People say he plays 4D or 5D chess or whatever. I don't think it's necessarily him, but there are people behind the scenes pulling strings, and they have, larger goals in mind. I think that's quite evident, as conspiratorial as that sounds.
Yeah, no. It's absolutely obvious to what's going on. Trump and Hegseth are puppets. They're players on a stage. Somebody else is directing the stage, directing the play, and it's not Trump that's in charge of it. I am absolutely certain about it. He's being used to really, because of his being unhinged, how erratic his behavior is. I think he's being used to advance a plan, and that plan, in my opinion, is a plan for world domination.
I kind of see things through a bit of a different lens these days, but I think there is a plan. And it's very difficult for people to understand it. But I think that one of the reasons for that is that you sometimes see this overlap of interest between different countries that are supposed to be adversaries, which is like a case in point, Hungary, where both the United States, Trump, MAGA, and Russia have both supported Orban, who still ultimately went down to defeat in this election. But, that's becomes this gray area of like, why would both countries be supporting Orban when they're kind of supposed to be adversarial? And so politics becomes this very complex, weird entanglement of interests, and as they say, it makes for strange bedfellows. But what are they saying about Hungary over in Russia right now? How are they viewing it?
Well, when you say in Russia,
yeah,
you have to make the distinction between the Russian people in general,
yeah,
and they are incredibly quiet. I've said this so many times over the last couple of years. In spite of the war that's raging next door, in spite of all of the threats from the EU to remilitarize, to build up their militaries, the constant talk about war against Russia within the next 3 years, the Russian people don't even react to that. Media people do. Intellectuals do. But I make that distinction because Russians are going about living their lives as they always have, as if there's no war going on next door, although they are deeply impacted. Here in Crimea, it was under Ukrainian management for 50 some years. There's marriage on both sides. There's relatives on both sides, friends on both sides. And when the breakup happened, the return to Russia in 2014, it really uprooted lots and lots of people. So they are feeling it. But I have to tell you, they're going about their daily lives, not worrying about what the EU is doing, their threats. I think they trust their government. But in terms of how they would have viewed something like Orban losing when their government and the United States were supporting him, I don't have anybody talk. None of my friends, my wife, her friends are talking about this. It's like it's not on the radar.
Yeah.
And to me, that's kind of surprising. And it's not because they're brain dead. These are very brilliant intellectual. We had a conversation on Easter with my wife's family who had gathered for dinner. And, they're wondering things like why Putin has not ended the conflict in Ukraine, why it continues, why boys on both sides are being killed. These are not the conversations that you'll hear in a coffee shop or in a restaurant, but you'll hear at family dinners, at family gatherings, where people are talking quietly amongst themselves. And when you get onto the topic of politics, it comes up. But last Sunday was Easter. There was no mention that there was even an election going on in Hungary.
Yep.
It just wasn't part of the conversation. And I have to tell you, add to that, I really can't say that I've had a conversation with any of my friends, other than my wife, because she's subjected to it because of me. No conversations about the war in Iran.
Yeah, my wife suffers the same over here too.
But you understand what I'm saying?
Yes,
They're not
yes.
talking about it.
Yeah.
And here people like you and I are reading the news every day, following it minute by minute, as long as we're awake.
Yeah.
And yet the rest of the population here, and they always ask about Trump, to say, what do you think about Trump? And I go, and everybody agrees. End of conversation. There's no need to talk any further. They really think that he's lost it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
You
generally the
mentioned
way it is over here too. The Orban loss has received a fair bit of media attention, and even the late night talk shows or comedy shows have highlighted it. So they're using it to some effect, but the average person, it doesn't have any direct impact on people's lives, and they just go about their business. Although people who are politically involved over here, it's a very divisive thing, as everything in politics these days is. But politics just here in Canada overnight, the strangeness of things highlighted again, because the Liberal government under Carney, there were 3 by-elections. The Liberals won in all 3 ridings, giving the Liberals under Carney now a majority government, going from a minority to a majority overnight. That changes things quite a bit, because it will give him a lot more ability to just push things through. But even more surprising, I think, for conservatives over here, is that Carney overnight announced that he is axing the excise tax on gasoline and diesel because of what Trump is doing. So that will dramatically lower prices at the gas pumps. And that's not typically what a Liberal would do in Canada. That's what I've been trying to tell people over here. He's not Justin Trudeau. He's a different kind of leader. And so I don't know what kind of reaction I'll get from people tonight when we do our program after this, but it will surprise a lot of people. But that's what's going on out in the world right now. And I don't know what's going on with gas prices over in your areas. Is the war in Iran having much of an impact on fuel prices? Probably not, being Russia.
No,
fuel coming from
but
Russia.
in fact, we were having this discussion the other day in a taxi cab, and we were talking with the driver, and my wife said, "Hey, have prices for gas gone up here?" And he said, "No, not really." And so then I said, "Well, what's the cost of gas here?" And they had the discussion. Of course, it's all liters here. So they converted the liters to gallons. And they said they've been paying at least $4 plus for gas here forever, as has been the case in parts of Europe, I understand. They've always been paying higher prices for gas. And I said, well, how can that be? Russia has so much gas and so much oil, liquid natural gas. I mean, how is it that Russians are paying higher price for gas? It's the way it is.
Yeah.
Not a crisis.
Yeah, well, it all goes into a commodities market globally, right? So whatever, even if you have all of the energy, it's still sold at prices that are affected by the world markets. But we'll see where it goes with this situation in Iran. I'm very concerned that it could just get out of control, because all it takes is one stupid move by any side, and you've got an escalation, a ship attacked, or somebody gets shot that shouldn't get shot, and the next thing it's just totally out of control. I mean, especially if anything happens to a U.S. ship, Trump will go berserk, and then we've got a much more serious problem. Are you concerned on that front as well, or am I paranoid?
No, you know what I'm more concerned about? is Netanyahu in Israel. He has not stopped bombing Lebanon.
Yeah.
My good friend, I don't know if you know him, fellow Canadian, Dimitri Lascaris, just returned from several days in Lebanon after spending 11 days in Iran just this past month. Israel has not stopped bombing southern Lebanon. And I think Israel is not going to stop. I can't imagine them stopping. I can only see them. I mean, Netanyahu personally undermined the peace talks in Islamabad, Pakistan over the weekend. The reporting here is all about how Netanyahu made a telephone call to Vance and to Trump, and boom, just like that, no more negotiations. And so I think, number one, I think Israel controls the United States. Netanyahu's been quoted as saying the United States will do absolutely everything he tells them. And I just think that he's the wild card. I think he's more dangerous than Trump.
Yeah, he's aggressive. He's a hawk. That is quite evident. And, after October 7th, I said what they're doing there is wrong too. Like I didn't like to see it on either side, but they've gone so far in Gaza, and even the posts that Trump made with regard to that, talking about turning it into the Riviera of the Middle East, and memes of him and Netanyahu sitting in Gaza, like with a Trump resort hotel behind him, AI generated images. It's just it's appalling. To talk about building a tourist destination for rich people on the bones of people that you've massacred. It's disgusting.
Yeah, it is. And I'll take it one step further. You look at who has been representing the United States in all of these negotiations with Russia, and just this last week in Islamabad. Witkoff and Kushner, two real estate, I'm going to be careful what I call them, but, they're Trump's buddies. They're gangsters. They're all in it to make money for themselves. And, I've been watching this thing happen since Trump met with Putin in Alaska last year. Ever since then, his emissaries, negotiators with Russia, has been only Witkoff and Kushner. And there's been absolute no progress made towards ending the war. So you wonder, and what people are saying, well, the only reason these guys are coming to talk to Putin is to sweeten the deal, promising all kinds of mega projects. Yeah. Russia's going to become incredibly wealthy if you partner with us. And then Kushner and Witkoff walking home with big sacks of money. Crimea is an incredible place. And it was reported, several months ago, when somebody showed Trump a map of Crimea, and he looked at it and he saw that there were oceans on all sides. And you had to know what was going through his head. I'm telling you, here in Yalta, or just south of Yalta, it's the most beautiful places on earth. I could see him and Kushner and Witkoff with the same plans for the Mediterranean, Trump Tower, casino, whatever, right here in Crimea, in my neighborhood. I'm sure that's part of their plan. Okay, they want to grab real estate, and they're not concerned about. They're the last people who could talk to Putin about peace. And what's noticeable here, and that people notice here, Sergei Lavrov is the foreign minister. He has never been involved in any of those meetings with Witkoff and Kushner. It would be below him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you talk about how disgusting it is what's happened in Gaza and what their plans are for a Mediterranean luxury resort or whatever. And, I think this is what they see everywhere. They see money. They see development, personal gain. And I think that is really disgusting. And when you talk about the lives that are lost, I mean, Israel is a genocidal entity. They've committed genocide in Gaza and Palestine. They're beginning to do the same thing now in Lebanon. Over 300 people killed in one day last week on attacks in Lebanon. Does that bother Trump? Doesn't bother him. He doesn't care about people's lives. Doesn't care about the American military. You know, when they said, oh, they lost a few Americans, he said, well, there are going to be a few more. It's war. He doesn't care.
Yeah. I've said that you can't be doing the things he's doing and actually be sane. You can't be sitting there giving orders where you have people die, certainly in the way he's doing it, and maintain your sanity. If you were sane before, committing those kinds of acts, giving those kinds of orders would certainly drive you insane if you were sane. So there's no way this guy is sane. And then to see what he's done over the weekend, first, posting a meme of himself as Jesus, then denying it, and then attacking the Pope. This guy he's absolutely nuts. And I don't know. You used to be a Catholic priest, right? At one point, is that correct?
What was that?
I think were you not a Catholic priest at one point?
Yeah, I was.
So that's why I also wanted to ask you about all of this, because with your background, I'm very curious how you view what Trump has done.
Well, I think I view it like any other Christian, any other person who believes in Jesus. I think I view it like people who are Muslims who saw Jesus as a historical character, a prophet, like Muhammad. People from other faiths, Hindus, for example. I think they've been mortified as well that Donald Trump would attack a religious figure from any other religion. In spite of they have different beliefs, but they're similar that they believe in one God. So I think I don't care if you're a U.S. or a global Catholic. I don't care if you're a Protestant. I don't care if you're a Jewish person who's a traditional Jew, not a Zionist. Whether you're Hindu or Buddhist or whatever, you've got to be appalled at somebody like Trump who would do that. It's totally disgusting to me. And then he turns around in an interview. He said, well, I was really presenting myself as a doctor and I was healing people. It's like, oh my gosh. Well, anyway, totally disgusting. More proof that the guy has lost it. I mean, when you think he's the president of the United States, there's never been another in my lifetime that has behaved like that.
There's never been a president who's ever behaved like this, period.
Yeah, I mean, even guys that I didn't like George Bush, who I thought he was not a very smart guy, okay? Even, Obama, he was the chameleon. He was such a smooth operator that he fooled everybody. Trump is just out there. I mean, there's no sense of diplomacy. There's no sense of just common decency with him. It's absent. And I can only hope that people in America are waking up now and have got to be totally disgusted with his behavior.
But that's the thing, Regis, and I don't understand this. Some people are upset, but there isn't like universal outrage. There's actually no outrage at all because his behavior has just become expected. Just in the past week, before the Jesus post and before he went to war with the Pope, he posted a video, like a live surveillance camera recorded of a woman being bludgeoned to death by an assailant in a parking lot with a hammer. he beat her in the head to death with a hammer, and he posted the unedited video on his Truth Social page. I was appalled. I could not believe it. And that barely got mentioned in the media at all. Like just a blip. I highlighted it because I didn't run the video. I wasn't going to run that. I told people about it. I just could not believe it. In fact, I started the commentary on it by saying, Mark Carney posted a video of blah, blah, blah. And then, oh no, that's not him. It's Trump. The reason I did that is because any other leader, if Putin had posted a video like that, people would lose their minds because it would be like disgusting. You wouldn't expect it. But with Trump, nothing shocks people anymore. Not this, and that's after he posted the comments about, ending the civilization in Iran, which in itself is appalling, unacceptable. That's the president of the United States. I that's not a question. That's just me losing it because that's unacceptable. I can't believe that. Do you have any?
Well,
help me out here.
In terms of own ages, and then he says, "Open the effing straits, you crazy bastards." It doesn't stop. There's no end to his insanity, to the things that he's doing that have got people like you and me and a lot of my friends just like, oh man, I'm having a hard time taking this anymore. Jeepers. It's anyway, you mentioned about you were concerned about maybe this thing really getting out of hand in Iran. I think the United States doesn't have any of its military ships anywhere near the Persian Gulf, the Red Sea. They're far enough away that they can't be hit by Iranian intermediate or long-range missiles. I think, Rick, and I've been saying this for several years now, there's a greater chance for a miscalculation over Ukraine between the United States and Russia, whether it be Russia shooting down one of those Reaper drones that are $100 million or whatever it is, or shooting down an F-35 with a United States pilot in it. I've always felt there's a much greater chance for a real serious escalation over Ukraine than I felt that there was in Iran. For me, in Iran, the only fear is that Israel, if they see that they're losing, might resort to using a nuke. I don't think the United States wants to get involved there. And for another reason we've been talking about, China. The United States stated goal publicly is we have to contain China. And Trump has said we've got to relocate, pivot back to Asia. To me, that's the next flashpoint. And we'll have to see what happens if Trump does dare to step on China's toes by pirating a Chinese ship or sinking a Chinese ship carrying oil or gas or fertilizer. Is China going to do as Russia's done? Oh well, we're not going to go to war right now. We'll just take it and kind of last it out. That's what a lot of people are saying Russia's been doing. Too many red lines have been crossed. Well, my question is China going to do the same thing?
Yeah, I think there's a huge amount of paranoia, honestly, that is generated from the Trump administration with regard to China. And then it's directed certainly up here in Canada, where our government is basically being told, don't you dare do any deals with China. And they're concerned about this decision by the Canadian government to allow about 49,000 Chinese electric vehicles into the country, as Trump says that he wants to take all of our auto assembly plants by using tariffs and having them all move to the U.S. So he doesn't want to buy any cars from Canada, but we're not allowed to do business with China. Meanwhile, he's got a trade mission. He's going to China, I think, in about a month. I might have the date wrong, but he's going to China to talk trade, but other countries can't. It's everything for him, nothing for anybody else. It's an all and nothing deal with that guy. That in itself is what destabilizes everything. It's not about a good deal. It's not about a fair deal. It's just about a deal that benefits him, I guess.
Yeah, that's what it looks like to me too. And make America great again. It was really make Trump greater again.
Yeah, richer.
Because American people sure as hell aren't benefiting from anything he's done. And I'll go back to what we were talking about before. What this war in Iran has done, and the closing of the Straits of Hormuz, and also the Houthis threatening to close the strait on the other side. This is crippling the world economy. We started talking about that a little bit earlier. I'm wondering, you're closer to it than I am, and are people in the United States, are people in Canada beginning to feel the rise in fuel prices that's affecting the transport of everything they need by 18-wheeler diesel trucks, stuff not getting to the supermarket, stuff not getting to Amazon. I mean, are they starting to feel it yet?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I went to the grocery store this week. Prices are up. And that's because the price of diesel has increased more than the price of gasoline, which affects, transporting everything to market. At $2.35 a liter for diesel fuel here now. And so if you're moving anything by truck, and that's everything that you buy one way or another, that's having a direct impact on inflation here in Canada and in the U.S. And that's why overnight, the Canadian government is saying we're getting rid of the excise tax on diesel and gasoline. It's a necessary thing in order to keep things somewhat affordable. But you're seeing in the grocery stores here probably 7 to 10% increase just in the past month, I would say, on prices overall. Some things even more. So it's having a direct impact. We'll see where it goes. And I don't know how long it'll take for Trump's base of support to what remains of it to evaporate, because it's having an effect on prices in the States too. And that's affecting everyday, normal, working class people, which is where a lot of Trump's support comes from. But he lies about everything. And well, prices go up, he says prices are going down. When 8 or 7 ships get through the strait, he says it's 15. Everything is double what the reality is. He's a master in psychological manipulation, and it's a bizarre thing. In fact, I think that even some Russian media has been highlighting of late some of the crazy things that he says that just defy reality. Does that filter through on your side as well? Do you see that?
A little of it. You have to find it on social media. There's not a lot of that craziness that comes through. Like, for example, I saw nothing on Russian media about him posting himself as Jesus. There was something about his little spat with the Pope. They reported that here in the news, but almost not. I want to say almost nothing about all of the crazy statements, contradictions, and lies that he makes. I haven't seen it reported here in the mainstream media. I think people, they're hearing about it, and when they ask about Trump, they go like this. He's crazy.
Well, see, that there's absolute definitive tracking of what's happening on the stock markets, and you can see that some prominent economists over here have taken note of what he's doing, and he is making statements that cause huge fluctuations in the stock market and in the commodities markets and oil prices. And then you see these huge purchases of stocks and commodities and futures contracts like an hour before he makes an announcement. And then right after, of course, when he makes the opposite announcement and makes the prices go up, and then they buy and they sell based on that information. He talks about things being rigged. Yeah, he's the one rigging it. And it's just, all he has to do is open his mouth and say something, and it makes the markets go up and down. And then the people around him who know what's coming can profit from it. And there's statistical, undeniable proof in the stats that show that there are groups of people doing this. It's just that it's hard to track and figure out exactly who it is. But at some point, I think that might come back to bite him and his oligarch friends right in the butt, because the numbers don't lie.
Yeah. And you know what, another thing that's amazing about him, he's been able to control the 24/7 news cycle like nobody else ever.
Yes.
It's like a 24/7 reality show. It's amazing. And of course, you know, the media, they're all owned by the same oligarchs. They're using all of that to, and I think, you know what else it's doing? It's keeping people very overwhelmed, keeping people fearful, keeping people angry but subdued, not expressing it. I just, you know, I have a couple of really dear friends, and both of them are bloggers, but both of them are like activists. They're still out on the street with their signs 2 or 3 times a week. They travel around the state of Maine. You know, it went from Palestine, Gaza, Ukraine, now Iran, now Trump, no kings. And what both of them said to me, they're feeling overwhelmed. And I think even a little bit depressed.
Yes.
That as hard as they're fighting and believing in what they're doing, they're feeling depressed.
Absolutely.
I think the only thing that keeps me from descending into depression is living here and with other people who are living life as they ordinarily do, and not being consumed and overwhelmed by this daily onslaught of bad stuff. You know, my wife and I have made a deliberate effort to try to live life as fully as we can. We attend the symphony here. The symphony is very cheap. It's like $7 per symphony. We have season tickets now for 3 years. I'm working on a film about the conductor and his life and the symphony that he conducts. You know, I get excited about this. You know, this has been Easter week, this last Sunday here, and the week before was Palm Sunday. We go to the services. I've made a couple of wonderful short videos about both of them that are really very interesting. And so this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to live life. We visit friends. We attend meetings of different kinds. You know, we volunteer at a center for young people, children and young people with physical and mental disabilities. And there's no talk of any of this shit going on. It's all about these kids that are trying to live their lives as best as they can. The place is filled with happiness and joy, and it's not the rest of this. And so for me, living here, it hasn't been difficult to find a really good balance between what I try to do as an influencer or a blogger and covering all this stuff, and then really trying to live life as best that we possibly can.
That's really what it comes down to. I think people just want to live their lives, live in peace, and have what's best for their families. And the politics gets in the way of a lot of that, and that's largely because you have a bunch of gangsters running the world who are out for themselves, and they just have, in some cases, far too much power, I guess. And I'm just glad that you're over there and safe and still living something of a normal life in the face of
Yeah.
living
I
in a
want to
war
give you
zone.
another example. I want to give you another example of something that, to me, has really been impressive. I have been invited to become a member of a journalism association from the city of Sevastopol. I've known the director of that, the head of that organization, since 2016 when I first met him, and he's become a good friend. He organized, and he's a former military guy, and he does a lot with the military, but he's organized a session for journalists with this brand new facility in Sevastopol that was created with money from the federal government. Rick, it's an amazing facility, huge, ultra modern in every sense, and it's all to develop young boys and girls in a career in ballet. This is a multi-million-dollar facility. They plan on having as many as 200 to 300 students there one time. Right now, there's about 100. And he took us to visit this place. And we met with some of the young people. We met with some of their instructors. And my thought through all of this was, Rick, these guys, they're all journalists. There are probably about 30 of them, okay? Yeah. They're all covering the war. They're all covering the drone strikes in Sevastopol. And here we were transported into a different world, a bunch of journalists. And it just struck me as so stark from stepping out of where all of the rest of these guys, and me included, were into this world, and seeing that Russia, and I've seen this so many times, is investing so heavily in their children. And this is not, they're doing the same thing in science, they're doing the same thing in education, sports, but this is ballet, which is so Russian. And, that's just another example that I'm trying to share with you, that people here in Russia are really going about living their lives as they always have, enjoying these beautiful things that are so much part of Russian culture and not just war and devastation.
There's beauty in creating things and a lot of ugliness in destruction. And a lot of darkness.
Kidding.
Yeah. Well, I hope that we can get past all the destruction and get back to a lot more beauty. And I appreciate you joining us on the program today again, Regis. And again, I just say stay safe over there, because it's a dangerous time. And all the best to you and your family.
Rick. It's always a pleasure visiting with you and having these discussions. I appreciate it very much.
All right, we will do it again soon. Thank you.
Maverick News isn't just a news outlet, it's a community of truth seekers. Your donation at freedomreporters.com fuels our mission to report the stories that mainstream media won't touch. Thank you, Maverick family. Maverick News. The world is watching.
So the craziness continues, and thank you again to Regis for joining us on the program. But yes, the craziness continues. Huge news, breaking news. I'm going to save it for last, though, because it's fresh, it's new, and it's coming to you. But first, we need to show you this. This is a video that is gaining traction out there. First came to me overnight, actually. And this is a bunch of Palestinians, I think about 50, in the back of a garbage truck, trying to sneak into Israel. But they caught them. Of course, Israel strikes into Lebanon, continuing, never stopping, keeping it all going. The conflict continues. So does the controversy surrounding Trump's Jesus post. Here's this House Speaker, Mr. Johnson, asked about it today, and you can tell that he's still choosing his words very carefully.
Speaker Johnson, can I ask you about the president's post depicting himself as Jesus? Was it blasphemy?
I talked with the president about it as soon as I saw it, and told him that I don't think it was being received in the same way he intended it. He agreed and he pulled it down. That was the right thing to do. He explained how he saw that, and I don't think he thought it was sacrilegious at all. So,
do you think he should back down?
I think he showed great respect to others by removing it.
Speaker Johnson, can I ask you
Yes, and here's the president explaining again what his true intent was with the post.
Did you post that picture of yourself depicted as Jesus Christ?
Well, it wasn't depicted. It was me. I did post it, and I thought it was me as a doctor, and had to do with Red Cross as a Red Cross worker there, which we support. And only the fake news could come up with that one. So I just heard about it, and I said, how did they come up with that? It's supposed to be me as a doctor.
The mocking continues, and Iran has also posted a bunch of new Lego videos. I'm not going to run it because I'm not sure how it will be received on social media. I understand a lot of them have been taken down on YouTube. So at the risk of suffering some form of censorship and banning, I won't share them, but they're all over the place. Some of them pretty clever, and some of them not entirely truthful either, but it's all propaganda. All propaganda, and maybe that's what we're getting tonight from the White House as they repost this video from a Fox News interview just completed where Trump tells Maria Bartiromo that the war is over.
I had to divert, because if I didn't do that, right now you would have Iran with a nuclear weapon, And if they had a nuclear weapon, you would be calling everybody over there, sir. And you don't want to do that.
Well, you keep saying was. Is this war over?
I think it's close to over, yeah. I mean, I view it as very close to over. You know what? If I pulled up stakes right now, it would take them 20 years to rebuild that country. And we're not finished. We'll see what happens. I think they want to make a deal very badly. I had a...
Is it over? It's very close to over, and no matter what, we win. We win no matter what. I don't know what that means. We have the ceasefire that isn't a ceasefire. They have a blockade, so we have a blockade on their blockade. Conflicting information. I don't know. All we can do, I guess, is wait for tomorrow. And keep living the lie. See you tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, on the flip side.
Welcome to the Matrix. All night, chasing the high. Everything's fake, psychedelic sky. They said you're free, that's the game. Different screen, always the same. You are what you believe, that's the key. Lock your mind, lose reality. If you believe it, it comes alive. Truth gets buried, nobody survives. The world is watching, brains are washing. Living the lie, glazed over eyes, hypnotized. Living the lie, no way to hide truth tonight. Switch it off, take back your mind. Living the lie. Same old story, louder now. Truth gets lost inside the crowd. Think you're awake, it's in your head. Different cage, dream is dead. The world is watching, brains are washing. Living the lie, glazed over eyes, hypnotized, zombified. Living the lie, no way to hide truth denied. Switch it off, take back your mind. Living the break it down, shut it out, turn it off right now. Break the screen, cut the feed, take back what you need. Live in the lie, glazed over eyes, hypnotized, zombified. Live in the lie, too tired to fight. Wake up now, take it back tonight. Living the lie. Living the lie. No more. Exit the Matrix.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.